On this week's Vaticano, we retrace the papal voyage to Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Pope Francis arrives as a messenger of peace and a witness to hope. He is received with enthusiasm by religious and political leaders and the youth. The Pope meets the president from his homeland, Argentina. And a movie producer presents his newest project in an exclusive preview. Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, welcomed a special guest on June the 6th. Pope Francis spent the entire day there. The Pope wanted to encourage the peace the nation has enjoyed since a civil war ended in 1995, and to further harmony amongst the different ethnicities and religious groups. About half the population is Muslim, another fraction is Orthodox. Only about 15% are Catholics, along with a small group of Jews. The day began with his welcoming at the airport of Sarajevo. After being greeted by state leaders and Serbians, Bosnians, and Croatians in their traditional clothing, he transferred quickly to the presidential palace. There he was greeted in the Hall of Honor and had the chance to meet with the political leaders of the three ethnic groups. In his speech, in beginning the day, he recalled the tragic civil war that lasted from 1991 to 1995.
La Bosnia and Herzegovina è infatti parte integrante dell'Europa.
Bosnia and Herzegovina is indeed an integral part of Europe. The successes and tragic experiences of the former are integrated fully into the latter's history of successes and tragedies. They constitute, too, a clear call to pursue every avenue of peace, in order that processes already underway can be yet more resilient and binding. In this land, peace and harmony among Croats, Serbs, and Bosnians, and the initiatives taken to extend these even further, as well as the cordial and fraternal relations among Muslims, Hebrews and Christians, and other religious minorities, take on an importance that goes beyond its boundaries.
The Pope also recalled his predecessor, St. John Paul II, who had visited Bosnia in 1997 and again in 2003. The first visit was shortly after the peace treaty and after the country had suffered 50 years of communism that brought about the so-called ethnic cleansings.
Sono venuto come pellegrino di pace e di dialogo.
I have come here as a pilgrim of peace and dialogue, 18 years after St. John Paul II's historic visit, which took place less than 2 years after the signing of the Dayton Peace Accord. I'm happy to see the progress which has been made, for which we must thank the Lord and so many men and women of goodwill.
Per i quali occorre ringraziare il Signore e tante persone di buona volontà.
The Pope went on to Sarajevo's Kosovo Stadium for Mass. Even the large stadium was too small to hold all the faithful that wanted to participate. More than 60,000 came.
La pace è dono di Dio.
Peace is a gift from God, not in the magical sense, but because with His Spirit, He can imprint these attitudes in our hearts and in our flesh, and can make us true instruments of His peace. And going further, the Apostle says that peace is a gift of God, because it is the fruit of His reconciliation with us. Only if we allow ourselves to be reconciled with God can human beings become artisans of peace.
L'uomo può diventare operatore di pace.
After a brief lunch break, Pope Francis went on to the Cathedral of Sarajevo, dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Eager people stood along the street just to get one glimpse of the pontiff. Sarajevo's Cardinal Vinko Puljic greeted the Pope. The two exchanged gifts. Francis brought a beautiful golden chalice. The Cardinal in return gave the Pope an image of Our Lady. The Pope then heard the witness of a priest, a religious brother, and a religious sister. He was so moved by their words of joy and sorrow that he spoke freely and directed heartfelt words to them.
Care sorelle, cari fratelli.
Dear sisters, dear brothers, you do not have the right to forget your own history, not for the purpose of revenge, but rather to make peace. Not to look at these testimonies as something odd, but through them to love as they have loved. In your blood, in your vocation, there is the vocation and the blood of these three martyrs. And it is the blood and the vocation of many religious women and men, many priests, many seminarians.
Tanti preti, tanti seminaristi.
Then he transferred to a meeting of interreligious nature. The country is marked by the dialogue between Muslims and Christians, still in tension but working together to better the country. Pope Francis laid out the essential characteristic of dialogue.
Interreligious dialogue, before being a discussion of the main themes of faith, is a conversation about human existence. This conversation shares the experiences of daily life in all its concreteness, with its joys and sufferings, its struggles and hopes. It takes on shared responsibilities. It plans a better future for all. We learn to live together, respecting each other's differences freely. We know and accept one another's identity.
Dialogue between the Catholics and Muslims there is now one of the best in the world, says a local Muslim leader.
Since the war ended, we started some sort of dialogue among all four religious communities. Dialogue existed even during the war, especially between the Islamic community and Catholic Church, but not with all four communities. So when the war ended in 1996, all four communities sit together, leaders of all four communities sit together and tried to deal with some issues and try to at least talk to each other, sit with each other and talk to each other. And that's how it started.
The Muslim religious leader explained how mutual trust is central.
As Muslims, we expect for Pope to encourage the work that we are doing on the level of communication, dialogue, interreligious support, and also in lesser part to have support from the state, because religious communities still have some difficulties with properties, for instance, that were taken away from them during the communist time. But the main challenges are trust. You know, during the aggression on Bosnia and Herzegovina, a lot of things, bad things were done. And those things were done by people, by some people. Those people were of this or of that religious affiliation. And now people are talking about the victims, about the people who died, about the properties that were destroyed, but people are not talking about the trust that was also a victim of the war. And you know, if you don't trust someone, you cannot work with someone. So the main challenge for us is to regain that trust.
The last stop before his departure was, as is tradition, an encounter with the youth. During this meeting, they had the chance to ask the Pope questions to which he responded off the cuff. One of the themes was the use of media.
Quando ho voluto guardare un bel film,
When I wanted to see a good film, I went to the television room in the Archbishop's residence and watched it there. But just that film. The television used to make me feel alienated from myself. And yes, I'm from the Stone Age. I'm an ancient. Now I understand that the times have changed. We live in an age of images, and this is very important. In an age of images, we must do what was done in the age of books. Choose what's good for me. Out of this come two consequences. The responsibility of television networks to offer programs which encourage the good, which promote values, which build up society, which help us advance, not ones that drag us down.
Che ci portino avanti, non che ci portino giù.
He even went outside to the terrace in order to greet all the gathered young people in front of the John Paul II Center. At the very end, he let white doves free as a sign of peace.
Queste colombe sono un segnale di pace.
These doves are a sign of peace, which brings joy. And peace is made among all, between everyone, Muslims, Jews, Orthodox, Catholics, and others. We are all brothers and sisters. We all adore the one God. Never ever let there be a separation among you, brotherhood and union. And now I must depart, and I ask you, please, to pray for me. May the Lord bless you. Mir vama.
Mir vama.
A long day came to an end, and at dusk, Pope Francis returned to his airplane. Together with different cardinals and local bishops, the Pope made his way across the red carpet, which was flanked by faithful in traditional costumes. The 8th papal visit thus came to an end, and the messenger of peace made his way back home. Welcome back. This is Vaticano.
During his weekly Angelus prayer, Pope Francis recalled the feast of Corpus Christi celebrated that day.
La festa del Corpus Domini.
The feast of Corpus Christi inspires us by consuming the Lord to foster our desire and commitment in a society to be more welcoming and supportive. Let us place all of our wishes in the heart of the Virgin Mary, woman of the Eucharist. She invokes in all of us the joy in participation in the Mass, especially on Sundays, and encourages us to witness the love of Christ.
Di testimoniare l'infinita carità di Cristo.
Pope Francis on Friday met with the President of Chile, Michelle Bachelet. Issues such as the protection of human life, education, and social peace were then addressed. The positive role and the contribution of Catholic institutions in Chilean society were emphasized. In January, under President Bachelet's direction, the topic of abortion was discussed in Chile, where the government suggested a change in legislation to depenalize abortions. A group called the Women in White, or Mujeres de Blanco, was born in spontaneous protest to the decision. They even followed her to Rome and protested in St. Peter's Square.
We
wanted to pray for that interview to sprout life. This is not an act against her as president nor against her government. Even people from outside Rome came to tell the Chileans that Chile doesn't kill, doesn't do that, does not destroy the family, the children, that it should not be allowed by law. Pope Francis on Sunday afternoon met with the President of Argentina, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. The two met for over 90 minutes in the Paul VI Audience Hall. During the meeting, President Fernández de Kirchner expressed the affection felt for the Pope by the people of Argentina and asked for the Pope's blessing on his countrymen. The President will attend the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization conference, as well as meet Italian officials before traveling to the Expo Milan. Pope Francis led festivities for the feast of Corpus Christi in Rome. First was Mass on the steps of the Basilica of St. John Lateran, then a long procession followed by the Blessed Sacrament to the nearby Basilica of St. Mary Major. The Pope joined the procession for the blessing at the end. The Feast of Corpus Christi, also known as Corpus Domini, is the liturgical solemnity celebrating the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. It emphasizes the joy of the institution of the Eucharist, which was observed on Holy Thursday by Christ himself. During his general audience, Pope Francis spoke about sickness and how to deal with it in the family.
En la catequesis de hoy sobre los temas de la familia.
In today's catechesis, still on the topic of the family, we discuss disease, which is a common experience in the life of families. In many parts of the world where hospital care is still a privilege for a few, The family has always been considered the closest hospital where, thanks to its loving care, the patient is guaranteed the necessary care and support. In the family, it is important to educate children early so that they are sensitive and supportive of sick family members. Likewise, the Christian community has to accompany families to deal with sickness from a perspective of faith, always in prayer and affectionate closeness.
De oración y de cercanía afectuosa.
Pope Francis just returned from his one-day trip to the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarajevo. Originally part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, the region suffered roughly 50 years of communism, an ideology that shaped the citizens' minds. 20 years ago, all of this was under siege, a 3-year war between ethno-religious groups that killed 100,000. Today, says the Pope's delegate to Bosnia, the nation's religions are trying to work together for lasting peace.
The Islam that I see here is a respectful Islam. It is an Islam, and that is what it is. They are the majority here, but there is coexistence of the different groups, the different religious groups, like the Orthodox. The same is true for the Jews. There's a tiny Jewish community, but there is a coexistence of everyone. Together, with interreligious dialogue, it must obviously grow more. And that's especially true for a country like this, a multicultural country. And this country, a country that just came out of war.
About half the population is Muslim and 40% are Christian Orthodox. Only about 10% are Catholics. There are continued tensions, but the Archbishop says that Muslims and Christians are focused on achieving mutual respect.
Speaking for myself, I'm always in contact with the Muslim heads. I go to their feasts, not in the mosques, but when they invite me to the feasts, I'll participate. The same is true for the Jewish feasts. When there are public actions, also Muslim leaders participate, like the statue of John Paul II.
In a 2009 poll, 80% of the population answered that religion is an important element of their life.
Violence against Christians in Iraq continues. The Archbishop of Erbil, the largest city in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, came to Rome to call upon the international community not to forget the suffering of minorities in his homeland.
The victims also are of most important part of the whole story. Unless we speak about the victims in these Islamic statements, there would be no possibility to raising the conscience of all Islamic people about what's happening. What's happening is not just damaging the reputation of Islam, it's really destroying the life of so many innocent people. So it's not enough to say in these statements, well, this is not the real Islam, this is damaging Islam. Okay, tell me something about the victims.
The Church plays a crucial role in helping the displaced persons and suffering families.
Spiritual and pastoral help was always present from the first hours. Priests and sisters are with the community where they live, in camps, in caravans, in different parts. So this also have helped that their faith have kept them strong, that we have left everything behind just to live as a dignified Christians. So this have give them the strength and give us the courage also to continue the help.
Also, Pope Francis continues to call for prayer for persecuted Christians, especially during his general audiences and the Angelus prayer. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
Pope Francis will visit the Italian city of Turin later this month. In the center of the picturesque town of Turin in Italy sits the Sanctuary of the Virgin of Consolation. It is a prominent Marian sanctuary inside a minor basilica in central Turin. Colloquially, the sanctuary is known as La Consola and has an intriguing story.
L'origine di questa devozione
The beginning of this religious devotion goes back to miraculous origins. There was a blind man in Briançon in France, across the Alps, who had a dream and dreamed that this image of the Madonna could be found in this church in Turin. He went all the way to Turin to find the image, and he did find it. As soon as he found it, he regained his power of sight. This ancient tradition wants to teach us a truth that the Gospel recounts many times. That is, Jesus is the true light. He is the true light that illuminates all peoples.
Mary grants consolation, since she brings the source of consolation into the world, Jesus Christ.
Consolation because of Jesus. Jesus is full of the Holy Spirit. Jesus in the Gospel says that he will give us another consoler, pointing out himself as the first consoler, and then the Holy Spirit as the second consoler. Then you have the consolatrix, because the culmination of this gift is giving it to others. The Mother of God seems to offer us the child. She offers us the true consolation. She offers the consoler of the world. That is the deep meaning and significance of this Marian icon.
In fact, she became the patroness of the city.
The devotion was always very widespread. The whole city of Turin was always very connected in times of trial to this sanctuary. Mary became in fact the patroness of the city in the 1600s. But already a lot earlier, graces were requested of her for solemn occasions.
The church is an eclectic collection of architecture and includes portions of an ancient Roman wall, a Romanesque bell tower, a Baroque set of domes, almost Byzantine, sheltering a Gothic icon with 2 porticos, one of which has neoclassic severity.
Movies transmit messages. The greatest message ever told is that of the gospel. Catholic film productions try to transmit that message. Vincenzo Mosca is using the genre of art to create striking films about saints.
I'm very much involved in telling the stories of these extraordinary people, touched by God, the saints. Saints are people that didn't know they were saints, but their example and their faith left an incredible impact on everybody's lives. And so I thought to fill a gap in Catholic films and make my own films, because there are not many films, biographical films about saints of the Middle Ages around. I started with one, and then I want to go on with more.
Mosca's film company already made one movie on one of the greatest Franciscan philosophers, Blessed John Duns Scotus. And now the time has come to move on to a famous contemporary of his.
The one that we're working on at the moment is St. Thomas Aquinas. The film is called Crystal Cathedral. We are preparing it, not producing it yet. We have a script. We have partners, and we hope to be starting shooting by the end of this year in Basilicata, in central Italy, in southern central Italy.
The next installment of the series is therefore on the greatest Dominican philosopher and theologian, a topic that has its challenges.
Our challenge is to make such philosophical content into enjoyable films. St. Thomas had an interesting life. He was a scion of a big family. And, just imagine, and that's what really inspires me with this kind of films. These kids, these people, were young. In this case, a young prince, a young count, the countess's son, who was supposed to become a very important person in the church, but he went poor. He wanted to become someone, you know, going to the people, to the poor. And so in that case, his life is also interesting in that, you know, it's inspiring to the young people too.
TVCO produces and distributes internationally. The films are available in multiple languages. St. Thomas will be shot in English.